it's about learning and reflecting all this knowledge that I have on what these triggers are. So now I figured out a way to work a schedule where I know that I can hit my workouts 3 nights a week. And it's also giving myself a little bit of grace. Over my time, I've come to learn that not all workouts are HIIT workouts, not all workouts are MRT workouts, that it's okay to call rucking or walking golf with the kids as a workout exercise and movement, which has been a shift.
Today's guest is Shane Dixon, one of our longest active members with nearly 6 years in the Brotherhood. Shane has impacted hundreds of men through his knowledge, encouragement, and experience. And today, we pull back the curtain on Shane's own life and look at his triumphs, his challenges, as he walks his Fit Father journey and leads with humility and perseverance.
We all come to the stage where we join this because we need help, because we need that extra boost. We need the camaraderie. There's something that we need that we're looking for to put our ego, to put our I know aside, to say, okay, this has been planned this way, let's do it. And that's what I did and had tremendous success. And I went 6 months through and I did all of the workouts. I was a full 2.5 months before I had my first free meal. I had cut alcohol totally out. I was very, very dedicated to the program. And it really taught me a lot about myself and about what the program can do for you just by having faith in this is what it should be.
Mr. Shane Dixon, welcome officially to the Fit Father Project podcast, my friend. This has been a long time coming, and I am so happy you're here.
It is so amazing to be here. It has been a long journey. It's been a great journey, but it's been a long time coming.
5+ years on the Fit Father Project. I know there's probably a few guys who are in that camp, but you're in the running for one of the longest current active members. And I'll speak for this, just to frame this. There's a lot of guys who are absolutely looking forward to this episode. They've clicked the title. They're like, the Shane Dixon is here. and I think it's worth speaking into how much you've done for this brotherhood in terms of your investment of your time and your wisdom and your knowledge. And I think as people are going to hear in this story, your own journey hasn't just been like smooth sailing takeoff. It's been a real Fit Father Brotherhood journey of the ups and the downs. But one thing that differentiates you and has landed you a special place in so many guys' hearts is how much you've helped and served. So I just need to start this off with, on behalf of the entire Brotherhood, thank you for your service and your love and your care, my friend. Like, you have impacted so many of our lives.
I'm humbled by that. And to be honest, I do the help and I enjoy the helping, but as I'm more engaged in doing those things, it also helps me. It keeps me active. It keeps me engaged. And it really is. I couldn't imagine this journey and doing this journey without being as active as I have been within the Brotherhood. And that is a true part of my journey and my successes has been that interaction with others.
And I think that's even just a deeper truth, right? I mean, in giving, we receive. In receiving, we're kind of giving because we're giving a chance to give, and you exemplify that. So let's get into it. Please introduce yourself to the Brotherhood for those who don't know you, your name, your age, where you're from, and anything you'd like to share about work and family structure and all that.
Yeah, I am Shane Dixon. I live in the St. Louis area. I'm a high school teacher, coach golf, and I've been with the Fit Father Project for about over 5 years. It'll be 6 years, I believe, this September. So it's been quite the journey.
And what was your starting weight?
My starting weight was 240, 245. That was when I started.
Your current weight today?
Right at 208.
Okay. And the lowest weight you've been?
165.
Cool. 165. So that's the landscape we've been at. And I mean, 6+ years in, you've been down and you're at this current weight. So I think because it's been so much time, instead of us like taking back to necessarily your initial phase of FF30X, in whatever way you actually think about your Fit Father story, take us through the distinct stages of progressions of how it's been. And maybe if you remember in terms of years of what the focus was, what was meaningful to you at certain stages, and just how it's progressed over time. I want to be open landscape for however you want to unpack it. But I guess we'll start somewhere in the beginning.
Yeah. So for me, it started when I started, I had played with it a little bit. I had a friend who had been involved in, I was playing amateur golf. He was a tour director. I saw his success and I started playing with a few of the workouts. And then I really jumped in that September. And what I jumped in and what really drove my success and part of my view of this is my first 6 months that I went from 245 down to 165. I followed the plan as it was laid out. No more, no less, no changes. I follow the schedules. There's times that I'm like, I'm not supposed to work out. Schedule says not to do it. I followed it. Days that I was supposed to work out into phase 2, where we went 6 days, I did 6 days. And that is part of what really taught me about the program itself, is the fact that when you follow it, if we give up our own, we all come to the stage where we join this because we need help, because we need that extra boost. We need the camaraderie. There's something that we need, that we're looking for, to put our ego, to put our I know aside, to say, okay, this has been planned this way. Let's do it. And that's what I did, and had tremendous success. Towards the end of that, and I went 6 months through, and I did all of the workouts. I was a full 2.5 months before I had my first free meal. I had cut alcohol totally out. I was very, very dedicated to the program as written. I mean, again, no more, no less. And it really taught me a lot about myself and about what the program can do for you, just by having faith in this is what it should be. The end of that first 6 months, I went to the doctor, former doctor now, had some blood work, and some really bad, scary blood work, that they sent me to a cancer specialist. Because my white blood cells, everything, they couldn't figure out what was going on. My blood work was really, really crazy. So I had this really bad 2-3 week limbo where I had to wait to get into a cancer specialist. And while that was going on, my primary care physician was like, look, you've lost a lot of weight. You need to start putting weight back on, in case this is cancer, because I was down to 165 and pretty thin. Mm-hmm. So that scared the bejesus out of me. All the stress from that. It ended up, when I saw the doctor, the first thing the doctor says, there's no way. There's no way. Once I went to a cancer doctor, it was a total misinterpretation of all the results by my primary care doctor. But this was a good month and a half of just, oh my gosh, what is this? Mm-hmm. And that led to and the reason I had really started doing this, my niece was getting married in Mexico. So went to Mexico, lived my best life there, and that was in May. And kind of here or there, followed the program till the next school year. And then all of a sudden I'm going back to school, and I was 165 when I left. And now I'm going back, I'm almost back up to 220, 230 again. And this is why, I know I appreciate all the guys who talk about how successful and I really do. But I don't view my journey as terms of success. I have periods of success. I look at some of these other guys who have gone, and Jim, James, Glenn, David, who have gone, lost the weight, transitioned to OSM and been able to rock it. That hasn't been me. I am nothing but peaks and valleys. And one of the most meaningful things for me is I've always had something that has thrown me off the rails. And in reflection, they've all been excuses. They've 100% been excuses. We all have that excuse. There's nothing justifiable. It's just any excuse to say, oh, let's go back. I can do this. I can moderate. Can eat a bad diet? I have proof that you can't. So I go back into school that school year, and I can rock it out. I rock it out really well. I go from 135, got down to 180, and then I coach golf. Spring golf season hits. I do well with structure and plan. I love to plan everything out. I love the structure. Golf season, it disrupts my schedule. I have to work really hard, depending on weather, late nights, early nights, and that really has thrown me for a loop. Over the last 4 years, I've learned much, much better how to control that disruption. That first year, so I ended up golf season. By the end of golf season, I was back up to 210 by the end of summer again. It was always this disruption of golf season and then summer where I lose structure. During the school year, I have the natural structure. I get up, go to work, come home. I sit down, have my coffee. I work out. Boom, 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 boom. Mm-hmm. Summer has been a real struggle learning what do I need to do? And I looked at it as what's wrong with me that I can't do this during the summer. And it really was a schedule. And it's been learning. And all of the things I've learned, all the things I've given back, I can't thank you. I can't thank Ben, Craig, Kat, the people that work for FIP. They're a wealth of knowledge. There is very little knowledge that I have that didn't come from anybody in the program. The reflection is what really has been the important part for me, is trying to find out what are my triggers. And I have gone in my 5 years, that roller coaster back up to the 230s probably 4 times. Each one different triggers. Each time I fight it off. I have not gone back down to the 165. I believe that was a little too low. Mm-hmm. My goal is to be in that 190 to 200. For me, that's a little heavier, but it's a weight that I'm comfortable with and I feel good in. Um, and well, as a side note, this is kind of a thing. One issue that I fight with is body image. When I was 165, I still saw all of my flaws. I saw I was still fat. I had these problems. And that is what really has been a transformative thing for me is I was just as unhappy at 165 as I was at 245. I lost this weight and I'm so immensely proud of what I did, but I still viewed myself in such critical terms. And that's part of that first self-destructive summer of where those things happened. I'm like, well, what's the use? I'm not happy. Why be miserable? And then I put the weight back on. Then I was guilty and miserable. I'm like, oh, that's no good. Yeah. So, and it's about learning and reflecting all this knowledge I have on what these triggers are. So through golf season now, I figured out a way to work a schedule where I know that I can hit my workouts 3 nights a week. Mm-hmm. And it's also giving myself a little bit of grace. Over my time, I've come to learn that not all workouts are HIT HIIT workouts, not all workouts are MRT workouts, that it's okay to call rucking or walking golf with the kids as a workout and exercise and movement, which has been a shift. Yeah. But the big thing for me is finding my triggers, and I don't know what all of them are. It to me, I call it my bleep it bucket. I am going along great, and then something happens where I'm just like, I don't need to worry about it. I can live my life this weekend. And minimizing those, I've gone from months down to 4 or 5 weeks, down to a week. And now I can, when I realize it's the behavior, I'm like, oh, I need to stop this. And it's really about minimizing that time off plan. I posted about it. It's like, everybody's going to fall off the wagon. The key is to making sure you get back on the wagon as quick as you can. Yes. And for me, that's been the key.
For sure. And I see how just the cyclical nature of your job with teaching, you build up probably almost like this static electricity or stress into these ending periods. And then you have this open, relaxing release period that your excuse gets tacked on with a container. And then you have the bleep it period. And I love how you're now minimizing those. Yeah. It makes so much sense because it's all about constant course correction. And I would posit too, that because you've been on this through so many years and you're still on the horse and you're still refining the plan, all of this is winning past experience that you have here. And let's be honest about the initial self-image. To lose as much weight as you did in that initial 6 to 8 months, it'd be impossible for you to create a new self-image during that time anyways. I think your self-image is probably slowly morphing as now a guy who may not be completely happy with everything, but is committed to the process and is finding his true north constantly and is making incremental improvements. And that's the winning self-image long-term, I'd say.
Yeah, and that with the self-image come along is how do I determine success? And that's been a big thing. When I started, my first 6 months was weigh in every day, making sure that scale, those victories, that is what motivated me the first 6 months. Yeah. And since then, I've learned that there's other ways that I find, and it goes to my goals. Daily goals, short-term goals, weekly goals, midterm, long-term goals, that those goals are really what have motivated me. Sometimes they are weight. Sometimes they're workout goals. But understanding, the first 6 months, it was very important to do the weight because that was my goal, to lose the weight. And that was a very transformative physically, but mentally and also reflectively transformative 6 months that really set the journey out for me and created these understandings and these, I guess, principles that I have that I think are important things to live by and that I stick to as I do and move forward. Sure. Right now, it's kind of interesting. You talk about the cycles and the school. It very much so. This year in January, I shifted to, okay, I've never done it. I want to do every other day workouts. I've never done MRT workouts every other day. And I created a plan. I did that. I achieved that plan. And then it was moving into golf season. I don't have a plan. I don't know exactly how it's going to work. And that creates stress. That creates uncertainty, which then allows these other behaviors to creep back in. But then I'm able now to like, okay, I can mentally prepare. Come January, February, I'm like, I'm getting down to weeks. I need to have a plan. And that's an important thing. Every failure isn't really a failure because I've actually learned how to address and move forward with it and tackle it in the future.
And create your own plans that now you have a level of agency and ownership over. That's not the same as me creating a plan that you're following. It's you learning from me and now creating your plan that you're following. And it reminds me of this analogy. I think imagine if you had like a war general fighting a long-term war who got frustrated because he made a plan initially and now he has to go replan again. It's like you got to make new plans because there's changing terrain. And for you, you just happen to have a lifestyle due to teaching and the demands of golf season and all that stuff, where there's constantly discrete shifting periods of terrain. Mm-hmm. And anxiety definitely comes from having energy, but nowhere to direct it. A lack of clarity, destabilization. So it seems like your path, which you've discovered, I'm just reflecting back what I'm learning here, is that there are these posts leading into these different turns of your year where there's a discrete planning session, new plan, work that for the period of time, set a new goal when there's a new flow, and that constantly keeps you engaged. And it also is going to make sure whatever you're doing is adaptive to the circumstances, so you can actually check the boxes and not feel guilty. And so you are moving forward and feeling good and getting those good neurotransmitters of reward because you actually did what you say you were going to do. You don't feel off track. That's amazing.
Yeah, and the great thing is my summers now are no longer stress. I've learned, and that's one of the, and it's, again, principles that we've learned. During the school year, because of my lifestyle, it's at 8 o'clock breakfast shake, 1 o'clock is lunch, dinner is 7 o'clock, workout after work. During the summer, I have found that schedule doesn't work as well because when I am free and I am bored and I have time, I can graze, I can do this. So I moved to the intermittent fasting. I work out fasted. So I start my workouts at 10:30 in the morning, end them 11:30. I do my breakfast shake at noon. I do lunch at 3. I do dinner at 7. And that, again, is a routine. It's repeatable, and it works really well for me. It's my own schedule. Finding that schedule is really the key. And it's still using the principles that we have and reframing them. And I do the same thing on weekends. The weekdays I have my regular 3. The weekends I do the intermittent fasting and work out before I do it. And it's kind of nice to keep it because it's fresh. It's fresh. It's always evolving. And that's the big thing with the workouts that I do too. It's the same thing. I am still 100% only doing Fit Father workouts. My elliptical is either my HIIT training or my rower. I've done the burpees. I've done all millions of different ones. But then my MRTs, I have fallen into doing Apex, Double Trouble, Assault, and then Peak 11. And the main reason is I've moved into Sandbags to make things a little more difficult. And the Great Destroyer, the snatch is terrifying with the Sandbag. With a 70-pound sandbag, that's a terrifying move.
For sure.
Yeah. And descent has always been problematic for me because I work out. I've worked out every workout at home. I have 3 sandbags, 2 kettlebells, a bench, elliptical rower. I have done 5 years of workouts exclusively at home. So that is possible. I don't have enough weights to be able to, the descent, the curl is a different weight than the chest press. So I kind of avoid that because I can't get that good workout in there.
Yeah.
But I've been able to do all of the workouts multiple times. When I started, I was using 15-pound kettlebells for Apex. I've been as high as 45-pound kettlebells for Apex. I also found that was an ego move. I could do it, but I hurt from head to toe. And I've really found now that mixing the kettlebells and sandbells for me is a great personal challenge. They're so different. And actually, I was doing from January through the middle of February, it was every other day I do kettlebell, sandbag working through. And I have goals for the workouts. For the first time since January, and it's really weird, we talk about how we learn and we change. I have taken meticulous notes on my workouts. I have books of Apex at this weight, 5 was this time, 8 this time, 10. I have all these notes. In January, I'm like, well, that's not going to work because kettlebells and sandbags, the speeds are different, so I can't really compare them. So I said, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to track average heart rate and just see what happens to see the two. And I did from January till almost the end of February, and I did 6 workouts of Apex, DT, Assault, and Peak 11 and tracked my average heart rate. I've now started going back to, I'm doing on the upside kettlebells, downside sandbag, and then I'll flip it to see how it impacts me.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, after doing 5 years of keeping times, it is a fundamentally different not to keep time, but to learn I can push. Because I found what I was doing, I could fudge it. I'm like, okay, this is my time. Last time, I know I need this much more time to go. Well, I'll just finish 5 seconds earlier. I don't have to push as hard. When I've gotten rid of that clock, I've noticed I'm more legitimate to my rest times and everything else. And that's part of the always evolving, is I just went through and did the Apex. I did the kettlebells up, sandbags down, and then I did Sandbags up, kettlebells down. And I found that my heart rate was significantly lower with sandbags up and down. Well, my first question is that because that was my fourth, fifth, and sixth? Or is it because it's easier? So what I've done, reflecting back on my last, is I'm changing my order. I've always done apex, double trouble, assault, and then peak. The difficulty with that is while assault is probably the mentally most difficult one we do because it is so long with it, the reps don't decline. There's no squats. I could barely walk when I did peak 11 with 70-pound sandbags after not doing any squats for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
At first time, I'm like, oh my goodness. So I'm mixing it up so I can collect and get more information. I'm going to do a week of assault. I'll do kettlebells up on descent, another week of assault, sandbags up on descent, and then move to peak. But again, planning all this out is what gives me the success. And it's a fine line between, I do all of my planning and thinking before I work out. When I work out, I'm not thinking, I'm not planning. The only thing I do is I literally write down what I want my anticipated break times to be in between sets. So when I'm doing the moves and I'm doing the things, I'm focused on that. And it is probably, as you mentioned it earlier, our neurotransmitter, it is probably the greatest stress relief and brings me misery yet joy at the same time. The workouts, I am busting my butt. I'm sucking wind. But when I'm done, not only a sense of pride, I feel better. I feel better. And I often talk about I ache all the time, but I ache more when I don't work out. Which
Isn't that
really
ironic?
is. It's using all of these principles that we have and applying them to this that has made my journey the way it is.
I want to ask a specific question after hearing all of that wonderful stuff. I think there's got to be some guy listening to this, myself included, who'd be very interested in exploring sandbag training. Tell us about what spurred you on to add that in. What's it like doing any MRT, maybe even just take the apex with the sandbag? Talk to us about that, because I want a guy listening to just have a little more clarity to maybe even go on Amazon or whatever and buy one.
Brian Groves, there's a couple guys that had sandbags and did sandbags, and I was looking for some kind of alternative, because what was happening is my joints were killing me. When I was doing a 40-pound kettlebells, the squats, the rows, but any of the clean and press, anything over my head, my elbows, my wrists were just a lot of stress. So I was looking for a way, what can I do that is going to be a new challenge? So I just randomly, I was cruising Amazon. I saw a sandbag. I'm like, try it. I got a sandbag. My own ego took over. I was doing 2 40-pound kettlebells. I'm like, well, I'm sure I can do 70 pounds with this. Is 10 pounds less. I could barely move it. Because the weight moves around, it's not static. It's a whole level of oof. So I'm like, okay, readjusted. And I checked my ego because I wanted to be safe. I went all the way down to 40 pounds. And I've ended up having 3 sandbags, which makes it easier and safer to do the things. I have one small sandbag that I use for all overhead work. It's very firm. So when I'm doing the presses, it's not wobbling and flopping as much. I have a very large one that I can fold in half to do squats and pull through with. And then I found out that squats were becoming problematic as I was going into the 60, 70, 75-pound range, is how do I go from the swing to the squat? Well, there's a video out there, and I didn't realize how dumb it was until I watched myself in the video, is I would do the swings, and then I would just swing the bag up and catch it. Yeah. So I could do it, but I'm like, this isn't the best thing. So I bought a round sandbag and went to sumo squats instead of front squats. Nice. Which, again, doing that, radically different. I could barely walk again because it's hit a whole different group of muscles than I've been used to doing. So the sandbags it's interesting. They're slower, but they're more difficult. And the main reason I say they're slower is we can't really do a renegade row. So I do a pull through where you're still in the same position for the renegade row, and then you pull the sandbag through one side to the other. So it's still 1-1.
Yeah, that's cool. And
it is a total core. The first few times I did it, I hurt from my calves all the way to my shoulders because you're cranking all the way through. It is a very interesting and very great challenge. But I would not have been able to do any of those if I hadn't done all of the workouts with the kettlebells first. Because the kettlebells really taught me the form and built up the core strength, which is something that I never realized how much. I was a chiropractor every other week kind of guy. I am now, as I move into golf season, I'll go once or twice because that's a lot of stress on your back. But I haven't been to the chiropractor in 6 months. And a lot of it is a lot of it's the core strength, a lot of the things that we're doing there that inherently builds that. But the sandbags are slower, but they're more difficult in a different way because it's not a static weight. The weight's always constantly shifting a little bit. And I love the challenge of it. I really do.
Small question, but I'm just very curious. How has Fit Father changed your golf swing over the course of like all this core work that you've
So
done, for
in the
better or for
beginning,
worse?
I was golfing pretty well. In that first year, it destroyed it, because I went from being very, very large down. So I would, and any golfer know, I was coming from the inside too much. So I was hitting the ball straight to a swing, to a draw, which turned into a really big hook. It did change my golf swing, but again, it took time to do it. And it's interesting that I've also found that my golf swing is the best at the 190 to 200 range for my body. It just fits more. Again, I also say to myself, is that my rationalization if I want to be 195 to 200 pounds? I don't want to have to go lower. But it did change. But I'm also hitting the ball much further. I'm also hitting the ball much better. The hand strength, the grip strength, the forearm strength, the core strength. I used to be exhausted after a round of golf. I mean, in the summer, I take a 2-week trip up to Michigan, and there's days that I'll play 18 holes 3 times. I'll get up in the morning, play afternoon, and then go play in the night, go play in the evening. And I'm not sore. I'm tired after playing that, but I'm not sore. So that has been helpful.
That's cool. That's really amazing to have that physical capacity and a passion and a hobby that you love so much and teach in. It's really integrated. And I was thinking the rotational component of the Sandbag was also kind of probably good for golf in some way, shape, or form as well.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk nutrition. I know you have your own unique approach, and I think every guy's through line here at Fit Father is to find their eating plan. How is it? What did you start with? What really picked up in like the beginning phase of your journey? What bad habits did you break? Would you replace it with? And how has it changed over time?
Yeah, when I started, I love my favorite, one of my favorite Fit Father documents, the cheat sheet, the meal plan cheat sheet. There's guys that like to cook. I don't like to cook. I love to bake, but that's no bueno with this. But I do love meal planning, meal prepping. And right away, what I did is the meal plan cheat sheet. I'm going through picking my carbs, picking my veggies, and my proteins in meal planning. That was in the beginning a very long process figuring out what to work. I mean, we're talking all day Sunday. I am now down to, with an Instapot, with my oven, with an air fryer, I can meal plan for a week. Total time 2 hours, but it's moving things around. It's not really there. So in the beginning, I was really strict on what I was not a vet. Before I did this, I didn't eat broccoli. I didn't eat spinach. I did not like veggies at all. Brussels sprouts, you couldn't pay me to do that. That is one of the big changes I've had, is I integrate all those in my diet. I love it. Meal plan wise, I've always just done roasted veggies. I would started out doing roasted sweet potatoes and rotating brown rice. My proteins have always been turkey, chicken, salmon. Occasional steak is a reward. And that's a personal thing for me. Looking at it, the steak has higher fat, higher calories. And my first 6 months, I want to maximize the benefit. So I stuck to the leaner, lower calorie ones. Since then, it has stayed primarily the same. I've done the breakfast shake for breakfast for 5+ years. The breakfast shake, it's the green and the chocolate monsters. Those have been mine. The only modification to that is I've added collagen peptides, a scoop of that.
Nice.
That's really helped with the joints. And I do one quality no sugar added Greek yogurt for flavor.
Nice.
Because it's that gives me the different flavor profiles to keep it fresh and keep it new. I also cut the peanut butter. My whole thing that I've done, I found, is I've moved away from carbs as much. And I'll get to that part in a minute. But the lunches have always been the manwich. For a while, I was doing eggs with a side of bread or something else, and that just wasn't as satisfying. I don't know what it is with the manwich, but it is the bread, the avocado, or the spinach. It is truly. I never thought I'd be full from a sandwich.
Yeah.
And it really is. I do that almost exclusively. On weekends, I do mix it up. I love me some eggs. So on weekends, I do 3 eggs, some onion, and turkey scrambled up in it.
Yep.
My dinners, I rotate through. I have been blessed with one thing. I can eat the same thing over and over and over and not care. So traditionally I do 3 nights a week. I do either some kind of chicken or turkey, and then 2 nights a week salmon. And then my 6th night a week is leftover veggies and then some kind of chicken to go with it, whatever it is, because I have time on Sunday to do that. And it depends how much veggies I have. Currently, what I've done is I've modified the meal plan a wee bit. I eat very late. I eat dinner at 7 o'clock. By the time I'm home from work, I work out. I'm done working out. That's 6:30, 6:45. So my dinner's at 7. Because the priority that I've tried to make of sleep, I'm a horrible sleeper. My bedtime routine starts at 8, 8:30. So what I did is I cut all carbs from dinner. And I just double up on the veggies and then do the protein. I was concerned that may impact my workouts, but I work out after having the carbs from lunch, so it really has not impacted it at all.
Do you find you sleep better with less carbs?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, I do. And that was really the goal. Is I'm like, okay, everything I was seeing and hearing, a couple of the things that you put out there saying that it's carbs, and I'm like, okay, let's do it. And it really has not negatively impacted me at all. On weekends, I'm almost carb free, not intentionally, but I do the shake at noon. I do the eggs at lunch, and then dinner, it's just the veggies and protein. Nice. On Sundays, I take my quote free meal, and my free meal now has fallen into high quality chicken tenders. It gives me a little bit. It gives me a little bit of breading, and it's something that I can put a hot sauce on or something else. And it's almost like I almost consider almost like a reverse carb cycling, because I'm so low carb all week, and it gives me that little bump of carbs. So my body's like, oh, this is what it is, and then through the week I go back to where I was.
Yeah, I like that a lot. That's a really good way to do it, and it also made me chuckle too, because like how far you've probably come from that's your definition of a free meal now. It's like it's gotten a lot tighter than probably what it would have been when you started. I know you didn't take free meals initially, but I'm sure like a free meal back in the day would have been a lot different.
A train wreck. Yeah, it was a train wreck. my first few free meals truly were. It was everything in the world, and I suffered for it. For me, probably nutrition-wise, besides what I eat mentally, the way I viewed food has transformed and changed so much. We have been ingrained from childhood in rewards through the media and everything else that food is a reward. And I have fundamentally changed that. And that's part of the reason I can eat the same things over and over and over. It's not a reward. This is what I need to fuel my body. I need this to live and to have good, healthy workouts. I don't look at food as a reward. And what's interesting, I still fall into that trap, even though I know it, that, okay, if I do this, this, and this, I'll have a free meal and I'll eat this food. When I have that food, it's not nearly as satisfying. It's not nearly as good. I have this mental, this is going to be so great. And then I'm eating it and I'm like, it's not. It's not, which is it. And I know that, and I've told myself that over and over and over, but the same thing happens. But it really is, now my free meals are something along those lines. So the only time that I truly eat as I wish is when our summer vacations to northern Michigan. I go up with my mom. We're there for 2 weeks. One of my brothers comes up for part of the time, another one comes up. And because it's a family thing, I don't eat unhealthy, but I eat as I wish, and there's times that I am miserable too, which is a great thing and a great reminder.
For sure.
That's what a lot of the guys I tell them: first 30 days, be strict, and then if you want that free meal, have it your second month. Because in the back of my mind, I'm like, I know how bad you're going to feel, and it's a powerful lesson. It's a powerful lesson.
It is. And I'll tell you, like I've been following this stuff for decades, and I still have the experience of time of getting really excited about how good something's going to taste, and then realizing it doesn't taste as good and it hurts my stomach or I feel bad afterwards. And so it's like, for everyone listening to this, it's a constant learning and relearning process, and it does get easier and incrementally better, and you're training yourself over time. And so it's just part of it.
And it's in hindsight, it's also slightly terrifying the way food is used by a reward throughout media and everything else. Every commercial, it's like, oh, look how great this is. This is going to make you so happy, everything else. Unlike we can't get away from food. People that struggle with other, and to a certain extent, I question whether or not I have had food, or if I do have food addictions, but we can't get away from food. We have to have it. Unlike other unhealthy things, cigarettes, alcohol, you can live your life without it. That trap is there every single day. And that's what a lot of people don't understand is you're going to slip up. You're not going to be perfect. We can't get away from food. There's going to be a stressor. There's going to be an event. I call it my bleep it bucket. Something will happen that you're just like, I'm going to do it. It's how long that duration of that before you get back on the wagon. And it is, I look at my family, my nieces and their kids and everything else, and it's interesting to see how much of a healthier relationship people now have with kids and food as far as snacks and what they're giving them compared to what we grew up with. Because it's radically different. I mean, because us, it was always a candy bar at the store and ice cream or this or that. But at least it is getting healthier with a lot of the kids. But food is still being used as a reward, which is kind of scary.
For sure. You're totally right. And I don't want to stay here too long, but a slight detour. Now, from a teacher's perspective, what are you seeing in the classroom in terms of behaviors of kids or even athletes that you coach in terms of nutrition? Like, are kids eating healthy? Some kids are, some kids aren't.
We are in a suburban school district, and we are in a very good school district. Our kids, we have done before anybody else did. We did the USDA healthy lunches where they cut out all the salt, cut out most of the cheeses. Most of our kids walk around with water bottles. You see very, very few soda.
Nice.
It's interesting. We didn't see a lot of energy drinks, and I've had the conversation politely with several of the kids. They're like, "Oh, Celsius, look, it says sugar-free." I'm like, "Yeah, it's still other stuff in there." Overall, it is very, very healthy. It is really nice to see you don't see a whole lot of junk food. A lot of the kids, they come in and you'll see their sandwiches and they've got their veggies, they've got fruits and things with them. So there is a transformative thing there, but our school district's also very progressive with that. Like we have a community garden, we have goats, we have bees.
Wow.
So it's kind of ingrained in what we're doing. So that is also very helpful there.
That's cool. I didn't expect to hear that. And that's really amazing to hear.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about the Brotherhood, because I know that's been a part of your journey. I guess it's interesting the position you're in now, which is having helped and touched so many people. And I know you've gotten benefit from that as you've shared, but what's your journey been like with the Brotherhood and some people that have touched your life along the way, and any kind of meaningful moments from this journey of honestly probably making a good number of friends and connections in the process of getting healthy. I just love you to speak into that part of the Fit Father experience.
Yeah, it was interesting to me when I started. I was kind of alone. And then within the first phase, I fell in with two other guys that just happened to be started when I did, and we were in the same workouts. And Dane and David and I, we would post our workouts every day. And it was interesting. It was never a competition. We were in different parts of the U.S., so we would post at different times. But it was that motivating of I was in this with somebody. And that was my first real connection with the Brotherhood. There were these two other guys that every day I knew what I was doing. They were also doing it. We were in it together. That was a part of me that really showed how powerful the Brotherhood was, because it really is an us. And that's an important thing. The other thing is old name is Pat Crail. When I first started, he was throwing out advice. He's the one I tell people all the time, if you're having a hard time with push-ups, do them on a step. I struggle with push-ups. He's like, dude, do them on a step. Yeah. That knowledge and the things that he helped with was another one that was very, very helpful. And in the beginning of my journey, there were a lot of guys who I don't see many of them anymore, but they were very transformative to me and showing me how important it is to give advice and be active and engaged. But Dane, David and I, we went through that first 6 months, lock, stock, and barrel, all the way through. And then we kind of diverged there. They went into OSM, and I had my summer of fun and recycled. But that was very important. In all of the 5 years, and I went through, I think, 3 different Facebook groups, because we kept adding new groups. And at one point in time, I was in 3 different Facebook groups, and I was posting in all 3 of them, because to me, it's important. That's one thing advice I can give everybody. The more active you are, the more success you're going to have.
Yeah.
It's an accountability thing, but it's also a brotherhood and a collegial thing, that we are a group of peers. I mean, everybody, you, Kat, Ben, Craig, even though that you work for the Fit Father Project, you guys are one of us, and you're in there with us and helping us, which is different. It's not a top down. There's no hierarchy. It's all of us on the same struggle bus, because we're all having success, but we're also struggling in some way. If you look at the posts now, there's a group of us that have had a lot of work stress, a lot of things going on, and it's really comforting. I don't wish that on anybody, but I've had work stress, coaching stress, family. We had a death in the family, all these things going on. And it's not, I don't want anybody else to have those things, but it's comforting knowing that I'm not alone. I'm never alone in this. If it was just me in my workout room by myself, I have this knowledge. I believe I have the dedication to do it for a while, but I don't know if I would have the dedication to do it or the discipline to do it for 5 years. I can tell you that. Sooner or later, I believe I would have quit and just said, forget it. But every time I've gotten back on the horse, and that's because of the Brotherhood. And I've been very, very honest with my failures, with my lack of success, with my mistakes, because that's part of it. I don't want other people to think that they're alone, and I don't want other people to make the same mistake. And there are so many guys that I've looked at them like, ooh, yeah, that's true. And there's a lot of things that I'm doing now. I mean, like Don Starks. I mean, I've been trying to get to 100 consecutive push-ups. He's up to like 90. How's that humanly possible?
Yeah.
And this great thing is it's not a competition. There's nobody in competition with each other, but we're all motivated from each other. We're getting ideas from each other. There's all these guys that I just think are insane because they love running. I'm just not built for running. If I flat feet, it kills my back. And I think I'm like, okay, let's do the rucking because that's slow running.
Yeah.
But it's even watching all these guys that are doing the marathons, that are training for the race that you guys do. Super impressive. And that's motivating to me. Is seeing other people's successes motivates me to be more successful. Seeing these other guys struggle and helping them. Whenever I read these posts and I have a comment, I've had reflection before that. And that's what a lot of people don't really think is being active and reading these posts. Something is going to stick or something's going to click that you really don't see and you really don't know. And to me, that's the joy of the Brotherhood and everything here. I mean, I had no foundational nutrition or workout knowledge. My workout knowledge I had when I joined 5 years ago was when I played a little bit of football in high school, which was unhealthy and dumb. I mean, that was my workout knowledge. Lift heavy things many times. That was it. And everything I've learned has been from the program and the Brotherhood because there's so many brilliant guys in it.
Yeah. It's so amazing. Like that perspective, I think encapsulates the spirit of this Brotherhood. And I know you wouldn't want to hear this, but I feel like, dude, you're our guy. You are our mascot. Like you are the epitome of what this is. It's humility. It's getting after it. It's producing results. It's honesty. It's connection. It's support. And that's why so many people have gravitated towards you, and you've been such a pivotal part of your journey. And I hope you know that, like, it's impossible for you to know the impact that you've had on dozens, if not hundreds of guys who have gone through here where they like your name comes up in their household probably, and you're just doing you. And it's so beautiful to hear that.
It is humbling because I mean, it helps me as much as it does help them. Yeah. And it's one of those that I could not have done any of those things that I've done without all of the other brothers. And that is so true. It is, and this is for me, it's always a learning, it's a humbling that people say that and think that because it's my own self-image is I don't see this as a success. I see it as perseverance. Mm-hmm. And to know that I've helped others is extremely flattering and moving. But it's also they've done the same thing for me. I mean, that's I could not have done what I've done alone, and that's key to me.
And it turns out, I think that the subtle wisdom here is that perseverance is success when it comes to health, and you're doing it, bro. And I'm so proud of you.
That's true. Yes, I appreciate that. Yes.
Yeah. And so, anything in closing you'd like to share on this conversation? I mean, my heart is full. And I really think in the time that we've already talked, like I have a really good imprint of your journey. And I don't know if there's anything you felt like that's left unsaid, any words of thanks or final words of wisdom you'd like to have for guys who are starting out the program. I'd love to give you the floor to share again.
My advice for the guys that are starting the program really is at least to set the first month. Take it for what it is. Follow the schedule, no more, no less. Be as strict as you can. You will never, and trust me, I'm an example. You will never lose as much as you can your first 30 days. Maximize your benefit. That is from a place of caring. Like I have been through it the first time I lost an amazing amount of weight. Every time I go back through that first phase and follow it to the T, I still lose, but it's not the same amount. Maximize it to learn what you can do. The other thing is we are so much more mentally strong than we believe we are. One of the things that we are going around moving heavy things, but as you're moving heavy things, to walk back or go to the gym to do that takes a great amount of mental strength and fortitude that we don't recognize and we don't respect. To be able to get up and fight the fight every day, to do the workouts, to do the meal plan, there's so much mental strength and resilience that we don't realize we have. That has taken me a long time to understand and respect. that this may be a physical journey, but it's a mental journey in thinking and reflecting, but also in resilience. That we have to give ourselves credit, because to continue to stay in the fight is true strength too.
I mean, that's it. That's really it. And I guess I do feel compelled, because I got chills as you were saying that. It reminds me of that quote that it's the passage of the man in the arena. And it says, it's not the critic who counts, but it's basically the man in the arena who's showing up and showing up to fight. And I think it's what's unique about this brotherhood, as you said, it's almost we can be blinded to the fact that we are already the types of guys that are in the arena because we're here. We're just surrounded by guys who are also in the fight. So we don't even recognize the fact that we're already showing up with so much care and grit. And yes, there's more to do and we can do it together. But I think that recognition of even what we're doing is a powerful way to end this. So Shane Dixon, I know you don't like being called a legend, but I'm going to call you a legend, a fit father, my friend. And I'm so grateful to know you. I speak for the entire brotherhood. Thank you for everything you've done. We're excited to continue to support you on your journey, to see your progress updates, to follow in your footsteps, and to inspire you. You're the man. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Fit Father Project podcast. If you love what you heard, please rate and review our podcast on Apple Podcasts. It really helps spread this show to more men who need this valuable info. To watch full video episodes of this podcast and other motivational videos to inspire your training and more, visit our Fit Father Project YouTube channel. It's free and everything's made for busy guys over 40 like you. Visit youtube.com/Fit Father Project to get access to our entire video library. And finally, if you or someone in your life is interested in becoming a fit father or needs help losing weight, building muscle, and living healthier after age 40, then visit fitfatherproject.com, where you can see our proven programs, supplement line for guys 40 plus, and free meal plan and workouts to get you started. This is Dr. Anthony Balduzzi signing off. I'll see you in the next episode.